My name is Rosa. I am 61 years old. I live by myself in a small cottage near the coast of Galicia, Spain. This house once belonged to my parents. I was born within these walls, married here, and raised my only child here. The walls still remember laughter, footsteps, voices full of life. But now the quiet feels heavier than sound. My husband Javier passed away 9 years ago, and since then the rooms seem larger, emptier, colder. Most days I clean slowly, read old letters until my eyes blur, and water the flowers Javier once planted with his own hands. I avoid looking too long at his favorite chair. I touch his books carefully, as if they might still be warm. When I do cry, I do it softly, so the house doesn't hear me. My son Daniel lives in Australia now. He left when he was 20 to study engineering. At first he promised it was temporary, but life carried him forward and he never truly returned. He built a career, married a woman named Hannah, and became a father to 2 little girls I have only ever known through photographs. In the beginning he called often. He sent emails, postcards from Sydney, long messages filled with excitement. Then slowly the calls became shorter. The messages became rare, until one day they stopped altogether. Still, every morning I checked my phone. I smiled at his old messages as if they were new. I kept every childhood drawing he ever made, stored neatly beneath my bed. Every night I prayed for him, even when it felt like he had forgotten me. Then one afternoon, something unexpected happened. A knock echoed through the house. No one ever knocked anymore. Mail came quietly through the slot. Visitors were memories. I opened the door slowly, unsure of what I would find. My heart almost stopped. Daniel stood there. A suitcase rested beside him. He looked tired, thinner than I remembered, shadows beneath his eyes. And yet, the moment I saw him, all I felt was overwhelming joy. I pulled him into my arms before my mind could catch up. After all these years, my son was home. I made tea. I brought out the almond biscuits I saved for special moments. He sat at the kitchen table, glancing around at the familiar furniture, the old walls. He said everything looked the same. I told him only the silence had grown older. At first we barely spoke. There was too much emotion sitting between us. But when he finally began to talk, I listened with my whole heart. He said he missed me. He said life had been heavy, work, responsibilities, family pressure. None of it sounded like excuses. I understood how life pulls people away. Still, the emptiness he left behind had carved deep wounds in me. Then he said something I never expected. He asked me to come with him to Australia. He said I shouldn't live alone anymore. He said his home had room, that his daughters wanted to know their grandmother. He promised I would have my own space, my independence, but surrounded by family. I didn't know how to answer. I looked around at the house that held every chapter of my life. Every object carried memory. Leaving felt impossible. And yet, Daniel was my only child. I had dreamed for years of being close to him again. That night, I lay awake remembering the day Javier and I brought Daniel home from the hospital. I remembered his tiny feet running across the floor, his laughter, the love that once filled this place. Could I really walk away from it all? The next morning, Daniel spoke firmly. He said the house was too old, too isolated. He said it was time to move forward. He offered to handle everything. He said selling the house would help fund my new life. He smiled and told me this was best for both of us. In the following days, I packed slowly. I gave furniture to neighbors. I donated clothes to the church. I kept only a small suitcase, some dresses, my prayer book, and Javier's scarf. Daniel took me to sign the papers. The house was sold. The money went into his account so he could manage the move. Everything happened so quickly, like I was walking inside a fog. When I closed the door for the last time, I kissed the wall and whispered goodbye to Javier. At the airport, fear crept into my chest. Daniel told me to sit while he got a wheelchair. He said he'd be back in 5 minutes. I trusted him. I watched him walk away, believing this was the beginning of something new. 10 minutes passed, then 20. My calm began to shake. I looked at every face, hoping to see him. After half an hour, I asked an employee if anyone had requested a wheelchair. She said no. I waited longer. An officer noticed me sitting alone. He asked questions gently. I showed him Daniel's photo and ticket. He left briefly and returned with a softness in his eyes I will never forget. He told me Daniel had boarded the flight alone. I couldn't speak. I held Javier's scarf against my chest. My son had abandoned me. I had no home, no money, no one to call. The airport swallowed me whole. The officer Miguel refused to leave me alone. He took me to his home where his wife Elena welcomed me without hesitation. She wrapped me in warmth, in tea, in quiet understanding. That night I slept safely. Days turned into weeks. They cared for me without expecting anything. Then Miguel came home one evening, pale and shaken. A flight had crashed. Daniel was gone. No survivors. I cried quietly that night, not just for the man who betrayed me, but for the child I had loved. Time softened the pain. I stayed. I became part of their lives. Elena planted a garden for me. Miguel brought small gifts filled with meaning. They gave me dignity, purpose, belonging. I began teaching at a community center. I cooked. I shared stories. They called me Doña Rosa. I started writing my life in a blue notebook. Page by page, I healed. Years passed. I lost a son, but I found family. I learned that love is not always inherited, it is sometimes chosen. Not everything that breaks us destroys us. Some things break us open so the light can finally reach inside.